Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, ladies and gentlemen. No matter where you are, I hope you are well. Welcome to Architects Fast Forward webinar series. My name is Vinci Lai Kai Ying, a master representative, and I'll be your master of ceremony for today. Firstly, I would like to thank Architects 2021 for giving MASA an opportunity to conduct this session. We are pleased to have this collaboration with Architects. For those who have not yet to hear about MASA, I hope you can lend me your ears as I explain further. MASA stands for Malaysia Architecture Students Alliance and is a non-profit student committee operating directly under Pertubuhan Architect Malaysia or PAM, consisting of students representatives from all architecture institutes in Malaysia. It's a platform where Malaysia architecture students join forces to learn and share with appreciation of the past, generating sustainable living in the present, and bringing unlimited possibilities in the future. Our mission is to develop an effective platform and network between Malaysian architecture students and professionals. We also serve as a liaison between students and PAM. Alright, let's proceed to our main agenda by introducing our special guest for today. We present to you once again the chairman of PAM Education Committee, Architect Adrianta Aziz, and the one and only Architect Ganendra Singh Sekawat, who will be talking to us on the topic, Regional Context in Architecture, an example of Jaipur City. To begin with, let us welcome Architect Adrianta to say a few words. Hi, Architect Adrianta.
All right.
Nice to
Hi,
meet you.
Vinci. Nice to meet you. Yeah. How are you, Vinci?
Yeah, I'm good. Thank you.
Good, good.
Okay.
Congratulations that I heard that you graduated already, yeah?
Yes, thank you. Thank you so much for the wishes. So the floor is yours now.
Thank you. Thank you, Vinci. All right. Welcome, everyone, to Architects Fast Forward webinar series. It's a special program today, 9 December, year 2021, in collaboration with MASA, Malaysian Architecture Student Alliance, supported by PAM, Pertubuhan Architect Malaysia, Malaysian Institute of Architects, and also Acacia Committee Architecture Education, ACAI, and digital platform under Architects Online. Such an honor and happy to have Architect Ganendra Singh Shekhawat, a founder principal of Ideas, a chairman of Acacia Committee on Architectural Education, ACAI, and honorary treasurer of IIA, the Indian Institute of Architects. Well, ladies and gentlemen, students, Architect Ganendra Singh Shekhawat is a well-known Indian architect with over 20 years of professional experience in the field of architecture and urban planning. For over 2 decades, architect Ganendra Singh Shekhawat has been meticulously drafting the urban life with his creations and years of experience in building design and immaculate know-how of regulation, which have helped him create some of the prominent urban landmarks across various cities. With his talk title today, Regional Context in Architecture, we would explore deeper knowledge regarding regionalism and architectural design. The haziness surrounding our understanding of a region immediately poses a number of difficulties in how we address architecture. As a human construct, regions are products of our inherently biased belief and perceptions. Regionalism is attached to the movement of identification through context specific architecture, historical knowledge, climate responsiveness, materiality, ecology and landscape, social and cultural appropriateness, and technology. Speaking against the notions of degenerating regionalism as regressive sentimentalism, it is important to become deeply concerned with richness of local heritage and transforming principles of past into architecture suitable for the present social and economic climate. Local cultural traditions have bags full of knowledgeable fundamentals and learnings that can come handy to architects when working with rigorous modernity in hopes of producing timeless architecture. Architect Gayendra Shekhawat. Today his topic, regional context in architecture. He will be illustrating the regionalism and how regional context plays a role in architecture design. So I really hope all the viewers have a good coverage. If you have any question, please post it in your chat box. We're gonna hand it over to the Q&A session. And without further ado, let's welcome my good friend, architect Gayendra Singh Shekhawat from Jaipur, India. Hi Gayendra, how are you?
Hello, Adranta. How are you?
Fine, I'm good. I'm good. I'm so happy to have you today. So glad and honored. Yeah, thank you so much for your time, your contribution. I know that you're very busy, and I get to know that you are in the site office over there. Yeah, I heard that you just came back from New York, Gayendra.
I was touring United States, and then 2 days back, I reached back, and then I am actually on a site. We are doing a five-star hotel, adjoining another hotel. I think you've been there, the Rambagh Palace Hotel. If you
Oh yeah,
know, it used to be the palace of the Jaipur royalty. So we were on a site visit and we kind of got late. So I'm stuck up. So we are on our site. My apologies. And that is why I could join a little bit late. But yeah, I'm there.
wonderful. Thank you so much, Gayendra. Thank you so much. I'm so happy to see you again, even though through online. Really hope to see you in physical. I wish I can go back to Jaipur, or even I wish to bring you to Kuala Lumpur. Hopefully everything is in order. So without further ado, I pass the floor to you, Gayendra. Yeah,
Thank you. Thank
please.
you, Adranta. Thank you so much, my dear friend Adranta, the deputy chairman of the ACAE, the education chairman of PAM, and my friends from and the organizing team from MASA, to have involved me, to have given me the opportunity to interact with all of you and share my a little bit of experience which I've gathered in last 2 decades of my practice at Jaipur. So I would just like to start my presentation.
Right, the
So
screen now.
yeah, so my I think am I the screen is visible, Adranta?
Yes, yes, we can see now. All right.
All right. Okay. Now, so my topic, which I wanted to discuss with all of you, is regional context in architecture, example of Jaipur city. And I have since been, when I started my practice in long back in 1997, I started my practice in the city of Jaipur. I've been born and brought up in Jaipur. So the city is very close to my heart. And when this topic came to uh, understanding, I was very clear that I would be talking about how the example of Jaipur city reflects in our practice and in the form of architecture. See, region is product of inherently based biased beliefs and perceptions. So when you practice architecture, you have to have the beliefs and the perceptions of the region being practiced in your architecture. So how we are going to take the presentation, the whole talk today, we would be talking about the city of Jaipur. I would like to introduce you to the city of Jaipur, how the planning of Jaipur city was done, how it came into existence, and what are the characteristics of the city, what are the landmarks, and how the urbanization of the city was conceived, and what on those principles or on those regional context, what has been our contribution to the city and what we have done so far. So I would give you some examples of our practice, how we have taken the regional contextual attributes to our piece of architecture. So Jaipur is the capital and the largest city of Indian state of Rajasthan. This is in northern India. Jaipur was founded in 1727 by the ruler of that time, Savai Jai Singh. On the name of Jai Singh, Jaipur was named, and 1727 it was founded. It is almost around 280 kilometers from the Indian capital, New Delhi. Jaipur is also called the Pink City because of the dominant color schemes of its building. And Jaipur is home to two UNESCO World Heritage Sites, Jantar Mantar and Amer Fort. And just 2 years ago, Jaipur Walled City has also been declared as UNESCO World Heritage Site. Jai Singh II, the ruler who founded this city in 1727, was a astronomer himself. So, on the principles of 9 planets, he wanted the city to come up. He gave each square on one planet, 9 planets, and uh, it was on based on the principles of Vastu Shastra and Shilp Shastra. These are the ancient mythological sciences of India. On based on this, the city construction started in 1726, and it took 4 years to complete the major roads, offices, and palaces. The 9 squares, see, the city on the east and the north side has hills, and when 9 square was planned, one of the square what had fallen on the hills, so the 9 square was taken on the other direction, and that is how the basic plan of the city on based on 9 square mandalas corresponding to the 9 planets were formed. The void in the central square was used for palace garden. Because of the presence of a hill, a corner square was moved diagonally across. So you could see in the diagram, in the plans, how the 9 square was basically taken on the southwest direction. So according to this, the city was planned. The red line you could see is the fortification. Those times city used to have a fortified walls, and there used to be gates which used to called darwajas in Hindi. And city wall was a huge wall which used to protect the inhabitants of the city, the population, from the attacks of the enemies. Um, the wall is 6 meter high and it's 3 meter thick. You could see how solid this wall is. And there are 7 gates in the wall corresponding to the main roads. Now, these gates are named upon certain directions. So these are the names of 7 gates, and which are on the 7 roads, main roads. And the intersection of these roads are called squares or choppers. So these are also acting as public squares. So there are three major choppers, three major squares in the city, which basically are intersection of roads, also act as public interacting spaces. Each square is almost around 100 meters by 100 meters. So every but people large people gatherings on the festivals can take place on these choppers, on these squares. So these are the locations of these three squares where the three major roads intersect. The major roads are straight, they are 90-degree. There are three types of road: primary, secondary, and tertiary. So primary and secondary roads are majorly straight, and they are in a definite hierarchy, and they run east to west or north to south. And the tertiary roads are a little bit organic in shape, so they are not that straight. They have looks and corners so that people can actually use them for interaction. So major roads, primary and secondary roads, are straight roads. You could see the design of planning of one of the sector, how the primary streets and secondary streets are intersecting, and tertiary streets are a little bit organic in shape. Now, talking about the architecture of Jaipur walled city, the Typical architectural features of the streets are use of sunshades, resulting in strong horizontal lines. So, as you know, we have a very strong sun coming almost 8 months a year. So, the vertical the projections on windows is a very important part to give the shade to the walls. So, projecting vertical blocks on brackets. Now, these sunshades were taken out, were cantilevered with the help of stone brackets. A modular system of arches filled with delicate latticed screen to cut direct sun and glare of reflected sun in the street. So basically, the windows or the openings would have a lot of jalis. They would have a lot of screens so that a direct sunlight could be screened. So, and the ground floor basically is uniform planned shops, which are opening on the main streets, and upper floors are basically the residential areas. The uniformity is more rigid. The architecture is more rigid on the lower floors. As you go up, the the upper floors are more interesting. They are more organic. They are not that rigid in the architecture. The elements are not. So the major elements are parapet walls, the use of columns, use of jalis, the screens, use of jharokas, which are the pavilions, and chhajas, which are the sunshade. So these are a few of the building ornamentations used, the elements being used in the architecture of the city. Now, to have a uniformity, the city was painted pink. Now, according to a popular belief, the city was painted pink. It is actually not pink. This is light saffron color. We call it pink to celebrate or to commemorate the visit of Prince of Wales in 1876. Originally, it wasn't a pink city, but 1876, then ruler of Jaipur, painted the whole city to welcome the Prince of Wales, and after that, the city used to be known as Pink City. The city would have a lot of houses. Now, these houses are called Havelis. These are townhouses or residential units. The Havelis or the townhouses of Jaipur range from single courtyard to multiple courtyards, depending upon the status of the owner and number of family members. So basically, it is a low rise, high density cluster forming the basic urban fabric of the town. So the majority of the roads have the commercial shops on the ground floor and residential units on the upper floor. The inner, secondary, and tertiary units, streets would have a lot of townhouses or havelis, as we call them, with multiple courtyards. Majority of the havelis have one or two courtyards. Palaces can be visualized as an extension of the havelis. Now, palace was for the ruler himself. The Haveli plots in this region basically conform to a rectangular or square shape, sometimes with offsets. Now, as the city grew, the growing city, it started blending heritage with modernity, and we had some confluencing elements. The streetscape of the walled city is most important feature of attraction to the tourist. Every third or fourth tourist coming to India is coming to visit Jaipur. Now, the main important fascinating point for tourists is the streetscape of the walled city of Jaipur. Now, conservation of the city fabric, historical monument is the most prior challenge to the city. So now to address all this, towards the heritage sustainable, heritage conservation, which is the important issue. Lack of awareness towards heritage, sustainable, intangible heritage, solid waste management, water infrastructure, electricity, wiring and services, fire safety, vehicular traffic and parking, which is most important, management of stray animals, and insufficiency of tourist facility. These are the challenges this particular city these days is facing, and we are trying to get rid or trying to preserve our heritage now. So based this was a very small, very little introduction of the Jaipur city. Now to context, on how we have basically perceived and how we have taken the elements of architecture or elements of planning, urban planning, into our practice. I would give you some examples so that it is reflected and it is clear how the regional context on the architecture can be extracted. Now, we did a project long back, I think 5 years ago. We did a five-star hotel, JW Marriott, and what contextual extraction we were able to take out. This was very close to the walled city, in the very close to the heritage area. So the design, the site was almost a rectangular site. We did a palace block in the front, and then we did small villas which were acting as havelis or residential unit. So you could see there is a palace block garden and a palace block in the front, and then there are rectangular havelis or the residential areas. So this was the layout of our hotel project, and the scheme or the design of the elevation was conceived or extracted. The elements were extracted from the planning principles of Jaipur, the walled city of Jaipur. You could see we have not used the color, but the elements we have used the shades, sun shades, which we call them as chhajjas, cantilever chhajjas. We have used the arches, and we have used the pavilions at the roof level, also relating to what is happening in the city of Jaipur, so that the context is clear. Anybody who is staying here, any tourist can think that he's staying and still staying in a palace property and staying in Jaipur. And this is a very famous property, very famous destination for weddings. People who want to do royal weddings would come here and would stay here, and it gives them a feeling of as if they are doing a royal wedding. So you could see the street pattern, the flooring pattern. This has been taken up from the tertiary road street pattern of Jaipur city. The elements have been taken up, extracted from the walled city of Jaipur. The use of jali patterns in the lamps or use of water bodies also been extracted from the city of Jaipur. You could see how the blend between the modern architecture as well as the heritage architecture has been achieved in this particular design. This, these are a few of the other angles of the hotel property. You could see. So the skyline, the use of arches, use of sunshades, everything have been conceived from the city of the architectural principles of a city. Anybody staying here would feel as if he is staying in the palace of the royals in Jaipur. Now, second project which I would like to show to you is, which is the name of the project. It is a residential housing project with the name Jaipur. It is not Jaipur, it is Jaipur. So this is one of the suburbs of Jaipur city, a new developing area, new area, not close to the old area. But we have taken the principles, again, the design principles of the Jaipur walled city. The context of regional architecture has been extracted. Functional ornamentation and dynamic rhythm have been taken up from there. You could see in the street scape of the walled city, there is shopping on the ground floor, and upper floors are residential. Same concept we have taken here. The design is as such, there is a central courtyard, and all the units are on the all the four sides. The central courtyard act as a shaded courtyard, low rise high density cluster with the central courtyard having a lot of shaded portion. And now those shaded portion would have the indirect sunlight, and the air there would be cooler, so that the rooms around it would be cooler. And the axial grids have been followed, as was in the case of Jaipur walled city. So all the units are all around this courtyard. So ground floor would have the parking and the clubhouse facility in this unit, in this project. And upper four floors have residentials, residential flats, apartments on the fourth floor. And the color is also being taken as pink, same color which is there in the walled city. Same sun shading device, ornamentation have been taken out. And the roof, the terrace level have lot of canopies and pavilions matching with the elevation of the old palace in the Jaipur old city. So what still we are trying to follow in 2020 the principles of 1727, because these are still holding good, these are still interesting, and people really want to appreciate, people still want to stay in modern day palace, they call it a modern day palace. Few of the more angles and the pictures of that particular project. It is a high-end residential project, as if it's a royal palace. You could see few of other angles. This is the view of the central courtyard of that housing unit. So this third example I would be giving from another high-end condominium unit we are doing, high-end residential apartment unit, which we have finished. The name is The Crest. Now, again, in this, what we have done, we had gone for a grid planning, as in the case of Jaipur World City, and we have utilized and taken up courtyards as landscape or open spaces. As I told you, in the old townhouses we used to have courtyards, all the rooms were around it. In this concept also we went for courtyard planning and all the rooms around it, and those courtyards earlier times also used to have garden spaces or greenery. We also did plan courtyards. So in this case, what we did, from the east side, it is open so that sunlight can come, and on the three sides it is covered. So these are two courtyards, central courtyards, and in pink color you can see the building block. So these courtyards are acting as basically green spaces. These are dense functional spaces, and people can come here, sit, and interact. And these are open landscape spaces, and these are well associated and connected with the building units all around it. You could see the landscaping design of the courtyard. Though the architecture is modern, it is contemporary in lines, but the soul or the feeling of the design, feeling of the planning of the whole architectural design is basically revolving around the courtyard as it used to revolve in the times of earlier times, wherein the Havelis used to have courtyards, and all the rooms were facing that particular courtyard. So what happens generally in these courtyards? The sunlight is indirect. Generally, only the east light would come here, and from the other sides, especially from the south and the west, the sun is very harsh in India, especially in Rajasthan, in Jaipur. The sun from the south and the west is harsh. So this particular courtyard is shaded, is cutting the western and the southern sun. Ultimately, the courtyard remains cooler, and the rooms, the flats, apartments around this courtyard are cooler. They are naturally cooler. The use of sunlight, use of air conditioning is reduced. Now, this is another view of the design of those courtyards. We have done those courtyards in greenery. You could see the water also flowing there. You could see some benches. People can sit there. People can actually relax. They can chit chat. They can interact. So this was the whole concept. And then the water is flowing. There is the ripple of water, the ripple feeling of water is giving a very soothing feeling to everybody, anybody whosoever is sitting there. So this was the concept wherein we have taken the courtyard as one of the central designing element for our designing. So you could see how the greenery and the regional context, as it used to be in old townhouses, have been utilized. And then these courtyards also have some canopies. So earlier we used to have, in the old times, we used to have baradaris and pavilions. Though this is a modern day design, but the context is still the original, where people can sit and relax. So another view wherein you can see the courtyard, the green courtyards. another view of the building. This building is almost complete. So ultimately, three projects I have shared, and I would like to now bring to you the inference how in these three projects, JW Marriott, Jaipur, and the Crest, we have taken the regional context. Now, in JW Marriott, a modular system of arches filled with delicate lattice screens to cut the direct sun and glare of reflected sun in the street was used. The pavilions were utilized at the rooftop. There were sunshades which were as same as which were used in the architecture of the old world city. Though we did not take the color, the pink color we did not take, but lot of elements like the overall planning, wherein the main block is the palace block, which is there in the walled city of the royal family, and all the townhouses are acting as the villas in the Jaipur in this JW Marriott project. So anybody staying there would have the feeling wherein that he's staying in the palace of a modern day Maharaja. So that is JW Marriott for you. Now, second project was Jaipur. Now, Jaipur, we have confirmed we have gone for a low-rise, high-density cluster with a central courtyard concept, which is a green courtyard, and which acts as a space where all the flat owners can come and relax and interact, chit chat. So this is confirming to the Haveli design or the townhouses design of the Jaipur World City. Even the architecture of from the outside, we have painted it pink, the same color we have used. We have used the same types of sunshade devices. We have used the same patterns of jali. We have used the same screening of the windows and the arches and the axial grid, because the whole planning of Jaipur is on the grid pattern, straight line pattern. So the whole, since it was a square plot, we were able to follow the axial grids following the site conditions. So that was Jaipur for us. The project is almost complete. It has reached the finishing stage. And third project, which I wanted to discuss with you, I showed you here, is the crest. The architecture is modern, contemporary in line, but assemblage of multiple courtyards, multiple courts as the central courtyard. There are two courtyards you have seen, and all the rooms are, or all the flats are opening into that central courtyard, two central courtyards. It's a dense functional planning, and the landscape open spaces, and they are quite associated with the building. So that was the concept, as was the concept in the townhouses. So what ultimately we would like to, I mean, I would like to tell you, I would like to inform you here, the haziness surrounding our understanding of a region immediately poses a number of difficulties in how we address architecture. As a human construct, regions are product of our inherently biased beliefs and perceptions. Regionalism is attached to the moment of identification through context-specific architecture, historic knowledge, climate responsiveness, materiality, ecology and landscape, social and cultural appropriateness, and technology. Speaking against the notion of degenerating regionalism as regressive sentimentalism, it is important to become deeply concerned with richness of the local heritage and transforming the principles of past into architecture suitable for the present social and economic climate. Local culture traditions are bags full of knowledge, fundamentals, and learnings that can come handy to architects when working with rigorous modernity in hopes of producing timeless. So most important is everywhere the regional context plays important role, especially in case of Jaipur, it plays very important role because Jaipur is a very important historic city. It is a historic city, and it has got a very beautiful historic past. And architecturally, it is very beautiful. Its planning principles are world acclaimed. And since and that is why I chose Jaipur to be theme or center stage of my today's talk, wherein there is a lot of things to learn from the planning principles of Jaipur, from the design principles or the architectural design principles of Jaipur walled city. Per se, the architectural elements, the design elements, the planning principles, the infrastructure, the uh, um, uh, the response, the climate response to the climate. I mean, they used to store, because water is scarce. We have very less rainfalls in this part of the country. So water used to be saved there in stepped wells. Adranta, I've invited Adranta to Jaipur a few times. He's been here, and we have seen how water is celebrated in Jaipur. The water is kind of stored and then utilized properly. The rainwater is utilized properly to be used for the drinking purpose. So, a lot of architectural and engineering principles are worth studying. So, my last inference would be, if the city or the region has something important to offer, if it has something interesting to offer, if it has something timeless to offer, there are few elements which are basically timeless. Maybe they were beautiful in 17th century also, they are beautiful in 21st century also. There are certain technologies which were beautiful in those times also, which is beautiful today's also. Maybe with today's change in the lifestyle, maybe we can do a little bit augmentation, we can do a little bit of changes here and there, but regional context plays an important role in designing of a building project. I've been born and brought up here. I have lived my life in Jaipur, and I have learned. My architectural journey had evolved in this city, in this area of this country. So I know how important this particular regional context is for me and our practice. We've got a lot of other projects also to show, but I thought maybe we should give you examples from three only to make you understand how regional beliefs and regional context are important for practice in architecture, because certain things are timeless, and they, even in the modern times, they would appeal to everyone, and they would ultimately work to improve the quality of life of the inhabitants. So this was my very brief presentation on how in how important it is to have the regional context in architecture, and how the architectural and the planning principles could be extracted, and still we can come up with timeless structures. So I am now open to question answers. Maybe the students would like to ask some questions. I am ready for the discussion. Yeah, thank you.
Wow, all right. Thank you so much, Architect Gayendra. You make me miss India so much, you know that.
I I am
I,
I know when I talk to you, you've been to Jaipur quite a few times, and I know
yeah,
you can relate it to, and that is why I still remember coming from a city like Kuala Lumpur. You are so fond of Jaipur. I think after Kuala Lumpur, you would love to come to Jaipur.
of
So
course.
this is what the beauty of Jaipur is all about.
Yes, yes. Not only about the city, I'm thinking about the people, the culture, the food, especially, Gayendra. I can tell you, India has a rich culture and rich heritage to boost of that features as a storehouse of ecological assets. And of course, it's a mind-blowing monuments. For me, this is my opinion. Indian architecture is embodies a multitude of expressions over time and space, absorbing the new ideas. And I can see your projects that you shared to us just now. The result is an ever evolving range of architectural production that nevertheless retains and possesses a certain measure of continuity across your Indian history. So it could present a unique legacy of civilization, but I can see India's architectural heritage, it seems, remain unprotected and very care manner. Well, because the thing is, the students might be listening this, what makes a building heritage building. Architecture is a part of tangible culture heritage. It will provide way to know about the physical artifacts produced and maintained for the coming generation as a heritage. And architecture conservation is a process through which the material, historical, or design integrity of humanity built heritage is protected. Maybe we can share, you can share that how you can maintain your heritage architecture in Jaipur, and perhaps when you incorporate to your project now, the maintenance question.
So, Adranta, it's a very nice question. Now, first, we have to understand how important this conservation or preservation of Jaipur is for us. See, when we talk of conservation of heritage elements or heritage architecture, there comes a divide because there is always a discussion development or heritage, how these two go hand in hand. We, in case of Jaipur, find a a divide in development as well as in heritage, because for example you need what happens in other area, you need a bit more. If there is more traffic, you widen the road, but in case of Jaipur walled city, you cannot widen the road, because if you widen the road, you
Yeah.
chop off the streetscape is gone. And Jaipur, the pink city, is famous for its streetscape. The design, the elevation of street is important for us. We cannot chop them off. So what we can do, we have to reduce the traffic so that it can still sustain the today's traffic. So
Mm.
there is a conflict between conservation as well as development in case of Jaipur, and we have to ultimately reduce the traffic. And few of the European, you have studied in UK, you have lived in UK, you know how the beautiful harmony between development and heritage has been arrived in few of the European cities. They have reduced the commercialization, they have reduced the commercial use of the buildings. They are utilizing by readapting the old building in a proper way. For example, a
Mm.
old palace, if you convert that old palace into a hotel, it can still manage, maintain. You talked about maintainability. Now, if you make a palace a office, it will be spoiled. You make the
Mm.
palace a school, it will be spoiled. But if you make it a museum, or you make this as a hotel or a restaurant, it can still sustain. So ultimately, what these days we are doing, we are making tourism sustainable plans. And the Jaipur city has been declared by UNESCO as a
UNESCO.
protected site now. Yeah, it is. UNESCO has decided declared it as World Heritage Site. So now the government is working on the agenda wherein they want to reduce the exploitation, the commercialization of the walled city, the city, and the tourist tourist related activities are being generated there. For
Mm.
example, hotels or restaurants or museums or those kinds of elements. So to maintain, if you make the building financially viable, if you make the building financially sustainable, I think a tourism sustainable plan has to come in place. And I think heritage can still be maintained, and this is a huge source of knowledge for general. See, it's always said, Adranta, we have always studied architecture is the
Correct.
boldest script of development of any civilization. Now,
Mm.
by studying the buildings, we know, and 300 years ago, how beautiful the civilization was.
Yeah.
So the
Yeah.
point is, we need to. These are important beliefs. They are important, and they are source of bread and butter for a lot of people here, because
Mm.
we are tourism based. We have got a lot of. I told you in the start of my talk, every third, fourth tourist coming to India is coming for Jaipur. They want to visit Jaipur. They want to eat Jaipur food. They want
Yeah.
to buy Jaipur clothes. They want to buy Jaipur handicrafts. So
Yeah.
Jaipur is important from that perspective, and tourism, sustainable tourism plans are going to be in place. They are in place, and ultimately the government is working on those direction, wherein the maintainability, as you said, it becomes easier. And that is
Yeah.
the reason, even if in our new architecture, new pieces of architecture, for example, hotels, why people will like to come to have a wedding done, destination wedding done in Jaipur, because they want to feel that royal touch. They want to feel that royal background. They want to click a selfie and post on the Instagram. So this particular property which I talked about, JW Marriott Jaipur, is one
Mhm.
of the most sought after property for weddings, for functions. People will come here and spend millions of dollars for single wedding. Even in the
Mhm.
COVID times where foreigners are not coming to Jaipur, the hotel is still booming with
Wow.
business. There are no dates because a lot of people want to do their weddings here. They want to do so. Every frame is a Instagrammable frame. I cannot create old history, but I have tried to create that magic of that history with this particular project. And this is a source of knowledge for all of us, for I think the students of architecture, for young architects. I
Mm.
mean, so I think heritage is has to be important. It needs to be, and I also know in Kuala Lumpur, in Malaysia, there are few heritage structures which
Yeah.
are being conserved. I think one of the building which our dear friend Rida is, I think, managing. That's also a heritage
Yes,
building.
yes.
We can talk about that. So a lot of shows are being happen there, and they are still trying to protect that colonial structure. So I am of the opinion, if something is interesting, something is educating, I think it is the duty of the architects to preserve that and see the development and the conservation process go hand in hand.
Yeah, it's a very impressive response from you, Gendra. Because for me, heritage is a cultural process, a transition that engage with the present and means different things to different people. And why not? To an individual, they say that heritage means passing of culture, tradition, values, and things from the previous generation. So, what say you? Is it a heritage in Jaipur? Is a culture?
See, Jaipur, as I told you, it is our heritage is mix of many things. It is mix of architecture, it is
Mhm.
mix of culture, it is mix of traditions, it is mix of poetry, it is mix of handicraft. So there are a
Mhm.
lot of elements. I mean, there are a lot of attributes in heritage, and start maybe the dressing, the clothing, the food, the color, the metal, the palette. So the whole palette is interesting. I would say our Rajasthan, Jaipur's whole palette is interesting. And architecture in all these is the most important script, most important, boldest, I would say, script. So
Mhm.
that is the reason we would like to take this context of region, context of our area into our pieces of architecture.
Yeah, yeah. Just now, I just when I listened to your project's presentation just now, I was like thinking about the heritage circle, which represent the circle of cultural heritage, which can put it outlines an integral piece of a cultural heritage, and it drives the point that heritage must be understood by valued, cared for, and enjoyed in order to be shared. So, can you share a little bit about your project, especially your project has been constructed or even under construction, how you can insert your heritage circle into your new project now, Gayendra?
See what how I as I told you in few of my projects,
Yeah.
we were very finely able to, uh, I unfortunately I am not having those drawings. I'm sitting at a site office. So what we did an interesting project wherein we were designing the coaching hub for students.
Mm-hmm.
The In 11th and 12th class, students basically go to coaching institute to appear for the entrance examinations of medical, pre-medical, and pre-engineering.
Yeah.
So there are coaching institutes, a lot of coaching institutes in the city. The government decided to make a huge coaching hub, a knowledge park, and this was a competition project which where we participated and we were awarded the project. So what we did, we derived the principles of Jaipur World City. We decided that uh, you have seen the squares, big squares in the Jaipur walled city planning where all the major roads are intersecting. What we
Yeah.
did, we designed the a huge plaza, and that plaza had all the buildings, all uh, coaching buildings on the sides of that park, and the central park had a recessed, stepped well kind of a concept wherein library was put. So if all the pedestrians will come all from that building will come to the center point, and
Yep.
center point had a library, recessed library in the basement. You know, so research library is in the basement on the concept of Jaipur Square, the squares of Jaipur, which we call them choppers. So this is one element. There are a lot of elements when I sit for designing my new projects, which I derive, maybe the role, maybe the design of the roof, maybe the
Yep.
design of the sunshade, maybe the design of the jalis, to
Yep.
screen the sun, direct sun coming inside the room. So the concept, the design of jalis. There are a lot of elements, Adranta,
Mm.
which are appreciated, which ignites my thought process in the design of new buildings.
Right, right. With respect to culture and old
Yes.
building help us to, yeah, to understand the
Yes,
history that
it
occurred.
makes your principles, your design philosophy, your design journey is easier.
Mm.
Respect to this heritage, respect to the regional context makes the overall design process easier. And if it is easier, if it could be timeless, I think we architect can have that regional context being followed in the latest architecture.
Right, right. So the question from the students, because you have to remember architecture students when they explore a lot of elements, a lot of design approach of design studies in the studios. So they wanted to know from your statement, your opinion, why a heritage building is so important. They need to get your feedback about this, especially from your
See,
side in Jaipur.
in certain cities, certain contexts, certain regions, it is not important. In case
Mhm.
of Jaipur, that is why I have taken the example of Jaipur. It is very important because it is a heritage city. Jaipur is a tourist destination. We do not have buildings as case of we do not have Petronas Tower. We do not
Yeah,
have those levels of skyscrapers in the city, and Jaipur is
correct.
famous
Yeah.
for its original fabric, which is it is heritage walled city. So
Mhm.
ultimately, that is financially benefiting. How it happens in Rome, how it happens in Paris. You know,
Mm.
you go
Mm.
to Shaw Elysee, you see that tram that arc, or you go to Vatican City, or you go to streets in Prague, near the that river. So we have to respect the regional context when it is economically viable. In case of Jaipur, the economy is running across around the tourism angle. And to have that tourism angle in place, we have to think about heritage. But since these are modern times, we call it heritage to high tech. So heritage is still there, but we are still thinking on the modern angles. So it is heritage on one hand and high tech at one hand. So and as an architect, our role is to have a nice blend between these two uh, elements, and only then
Mhm.
only we can have a successful project. So it is very important for us in case of. I mean, a very good example I could give you from Singapore. Singapore, they have a Chinatown. They
Yep.
government put money to preserve that Chinatown. They
Yep.
cordoned off the area and they preserved on old principles, old architectural styles of Chinatown were preserved. The little
Mhm.
India that has been preserved. So the if a city like Singapore,
Mm.
where they've gone for skyscraper, they're filling I mean they're making more lands and making skyscrapers, they're
Skyscraper.
making projects like Marina Bay Sands and all that, but still they have understood the value of Chinatown, and they have
Mm.
preserved that beautiful piece of Chinatown, and that becomes a tourist destination. So
Yeah.
yeah, I mean it's important.
So your topic today, regional context in architecture, architect Gendra, because we can see that heritage is none other than a treasure to the upcoming generation.
Right,
Because we're talking
exactly.
about the architecture style,
Right.
they're talking about their living and also how they live are important to know. So many technologies are getting advanced after day by day, but the roots remains. So the question now from the student, how heritage architecture a root to a past and a responsibility for the today's architecture and the future architects.
So that is again a very interesting topic. If we do not if we do not extract the planning principles of Jaipur or any heritage architecture, then the continuity will miss. So
Mhm.
we have to understand how the architecture, what was the context in there, what were the principles in there, what was the requirement at that moment of time, and how those elements could be utilized here. How,
Mhm.
I mean, you cannot take 100% element. I mean, there has to be a, you have to perceive, and then accordingly you have to design. So but that continuity has to be there, because this is what you're going to leave for the next generation. If we forget about past, do all the modernity with modern buildings, you do not talk about heritage, you do not preserve it, you would leave nothing for the future generation. As an architect, we need to respect that. And we are the mediums. We architects of today's time are medium of basically taking those. So see, you have been to London many times, you have lived in
Yeah,
London, near London. You know, London, you cannot do anything with this the facade. You can do inside whatever you want to do, but
yeah.
the facade architecture, the facade control, the facade stone will remain just like that. You cannot change that. You if you So this is what the beauty is. If they would have allowed it, I mean, London would not look London as if of today. So we need to understand the importance of this architecture. This is our responsibility. This is a baton which we have to pass it on to our future generation.
So okay, there's a question here, Gendra. How should we look after our heritage? What is your opinion?
How?
How we look after your heritage? I mean, the architecture heritage. What's your opinion about it?
See, again, architectural heritage can be looked up only from financial perspective. It has to be, for example, I told you, if there is an old palace, if you want to make it, if you still want to maintain it, you make it a hotel, you make it a museum, you make it something related to its original use. If you want to open a office or a police station there, it will not be maintained, it will not be viable. So as an architect, the adaptive reuse should be
Mm-hmm.
conforming to the original character of the building. That is my point. So, as an architect or as a urban planner, we need to see that our role, our use of building is conforming to the original intent of the building. And as I again telling you, this is our responsibility to keep and preserve this piece of these sources of information, knowledge, bundle of knowledge for our future generation. We should carry them forward.
So I love your statement just now. We need to not only about to educate students, to educate people. I think it's a to it's about to spread awareness, because we can
Correct.
help by creating an awareness of the importance of preserving these invaluable sites, invaluable building by sharing, like through social networkings and the adaptations that you're saying just now.
Yes.
Well, yeah, okay. The thing is, may I know what is your favorite heritage building?
So my favorite heritage building is a building called. If I give you an Indian example, I would give from my city. It is called Hawa Mahal. It is English. It is called Palace of Winds. You might have seen there are a lot of jalis, and
Uh-huh.
it is a palace of wind. It is a very thin structure. The story
Mm-hmm.
behind it is that it has got all the jali windows. The
Mm-hmm.
ladies of the royal family used to sit behind those jalis, and you used to see the festivals or the parades, royal parades on the main road. They used to
Mm-hmm.
sit on those windows. I think it is 8 or 10 storied building. It's a very
Mm-hmm.
thin structure. Hawa Mahal, you can just Google, it will pop up on your screen.
It's
So
located where? Where's the location is?
it is in Jaipur. It is in
Jaipur,
Jaipur.
yeah? Yeah,
Yeah, it
okay.
is in Jaipur. It's a very I don't know if I can again share and show you, but it's a very interesting. So this is one of my important. I mean, I like this building. I'm very fond of this particular project. This is
Mm-hmm.
a
Mm-hmm.
inspiring project, building for all of us
Mm.
in Rajasthan.
Inspiring you. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
I
Hawa
can
Mahal.
feel, I think
We call it Hawa Mahal. Yeah,
Hava Mahal. I can feel
Hawa
that.
Mahal.
Yeah. There's a question here now, Architect Gayendra, because they said heritage values have an important role to play in contemporary society. Yeah. In areas as diverse as economic development, indigenous claims and rights, and then talking about political agendas and ideologies, armed conflict, poverty reduction, sustainable development, and the law and the legal legislative system. So the question now, your opinion, what values can heritage have to give to society?
Heritage is source of knowledge. It is source of beliefs. Heritage architecture, because we are architects, so we'll talk about architecture. There are a lot of things in heritage. There could be cuisine, there could be fabric, there could be culture, there could be many things. But most important of in this is architecture, because this is the most boldest script.
Mm-hmm.
Architecture, heritage architecture, basically is something which is a source of knowledge for future generation. Even a
Mm-hmm.
small common man who's not an architect, by seeing the building can understand, can appreciate the beauty of it. You know, so as an architect, we as the architects, we are the custodians
Yeah.
of these heritage architecture. So whatever we design, our our main design or our original concept should be that we do not do any design, anything wherein the heritage elements are vanished. We still, there are ways and paths by which both heritage and development can go hand in hand. So our role is very important, that we confirm that we do not want to get rid of heritage. Important source of knowledge still should be available to our future generation, to our kids and budding architects.
I think this is a very important need you to share with the students here, because not only does cultural heritage enable sustainable development in terms of economic growth, such as increased tourism. I can see Jaipur is the best place to visit, and local jobs. And it also enhances the inhabitants' sense of identity and feeling of connection. So the student wanted to know your opinion. What is the economic importance of a cultural heritage architecture?
In case of Jaipur, this is abundance. I told you, every third tourist
Yeah.
coming to India is coming to Jaipur, and he's
Mm.
not coming here for, as I told you, watching Petronas or to attend a IT project or to see something in commerce. He is
Mhm.
coming here to enjoy the culture. He is coming here to enjoy the beauty, and beauty comes from the culture, and culture comes from the architecture. If there
Yeah.
is no architecture, there is no culture. If you have modern building, Petronas Tower or some skyscrapers of Manhattan,
Mhm.
architecture and culture, they are related. Without architecture, there is no culture. I am of this opinion. So architecture basically is the zero space, is the 0 point wherein culture would start from there. So if we have to be culturally viable, if we have to be economically viable, I think architecture needs to be preserved. But yeah, definitely economic viability also needs to be considered, and that
Yeah.
the role of architects and planners, where they can see the buildings are economically viable, and role of adaptive reuse needs to be stressed upon.
I agree with that. I agree with that. So, Gayendra, We just came back from US, and I saw, we always keep in touch. I saw your Instagram. You just visited a few places in New York, and I'm so jealous with you. You have been to the Falling Waters in Peran. It's my wish list. So I just want to know, after you came back from your visit, and then you came back to Jaipur, how you feel about the context of regional in architecture now? How you feel this?
I This is a little bit going away from my original topic, but yeah, I would come back to the topic.
Yeah,
For a few days, I was in Manhattan, Adranta. It's
yeah.
altogether a different world. You don't see sky there. You don't see sky there. You have a solid concrete jungle.
Concrete. Yeah.
You are in the jungles of, for example, as you walk in jungles of Borneo, huh? You as if you're walking in the jungles of Borneo. It is jungles of Manhattan. These are concrete jungles altogether. I mean, who is not worked there? I mean, from Guggenheim Museum by FLW
Yeah.
to uh, Seagram's building by Mies van der Rohe. I mean, everybody has worked there, and you have
Yeah.
all those skyscrapers. It's all in architecturally very stimulating and very inspiring, and it still holds on to your nerves actually.
Yeah.
And from New York, I went to Pittsburgh. It's a very small city, not a big city. Just the population is almost around 2 million there.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, it is a old steel city. It you 100 years ago there used to be more millionaires in Pittsburgh than in New York, because it was the industrial city, industrial town of America.
Mm-hmm.
But in 60s, 70s, when the industry started decaying, there was a transformation in the steel plants. This city also started decaying. In last 30, 40 years, city came back from
Mm-hmm.
that decay, the dot of decay, to a progressive urban area.
Mm-hmm.
Now, at that moment of time, 100 years ago, when there used to be so many millionaires and rich people in the city, there were a lot of philanthropists. And one important philanthropist was Andrew Carnegie. Now, he was
Okay.
a philanthropist. He did a lot of buildings, the Carnegie Museum of Art, Carnegie Museum of Contemporary Science. I mean, a lot of buildings. The Carnegie Mellon University, University of Pittsburgh, which was founded in 17th, 18th century, and
Mm-hmm.
Carnegie Mellon, which was founded in almost 100, years ago. So it has got a blend of European touch. It has a
Mm-hmm.
blend of Gothic architecture, the Roman architecture, and because of the new developing city, it has got a touch of the contemporary architecture. It's a very nice blend of modernity with. So you could see heritage to high tech, but they have
Yeah.
not got rid of those heritage buildings. I went to a building, School of Architecture in Carnegie Mellon, where Albert Einstein has given a lecture. So 120 years ago, those buildings were made. So there, very beautiful example I saw from heritage to high tech, how a city can keep both the elements together and how they
Yeah.
can blend together. Now, again coming to very close to Pittsburgh, almost 1 hour, 1.5 hour drive from Pittsburgh is Bear Run, where I went to see the marvelous piece of architecture done by Frank Lloyd Wright in 1935. I
Mm.
mean, there is a small walk, Dranta, and when you reach there at the after that small walk, and I first time saw that falling water. I mean, I had goosebumps all over my body. I had
Imagine
goosebumps.
that.
I mean, 92 when I joined architecture, I in the history of architecture class, I sketched that. I
Yeah.
sketched from a cop, I mean, from a magazine, from a book.
Mm.
I sketched that, and we had a kind of a group presentation wherein
Yeah.
we spoke about how beautiful, how inspiring is falling water. And when I'm there to see, and because of Adranta, because of
Mm.
COVID times, there were no visitors, only me and my
Oh,
wife. In that bear,
seriously?
me and my wife, would you believe?
Wow.
Me and my wife was there, and then another old couple came after 5, 10 minutes. So we were just two, four people there, and
Wow.
I could realize, sense that energy. It's a beautiful. I mean, this design is timeless design, Adranta, and that
Mm,
is why this building is called one of the finest design building of all times.
correct.
How
Exactly.
beautifully Frank Lloyd Wright had designed, adapting to the local conditions, the waterfall, and the sound of waterfalls. I mean, it was designed for a Kaufman family who 1960
Mm,
gave this building to the government to make it a
mm.
kind of a museum. Now,
Museum,
from
yeah.
1962 or 63, the building is basically owned by the county, Pittsburgh County. So it is
Mm,
given to the government. So the point is, this piece of architecture is timeless. It is timeless. I mean, again, I would say that is heritage for us. We have
yeah,
those people have preserved that. It is
correct.
almost 90 years ago that building was made, and still it is inspiring for all of us. And it is economically viable because they've made it as a museum. It's a very fine example how beautiful heritage elements. And talk about the regional context, the beautiful regional setting
Yeah.
are part of the design. The steps of that rock, the walls, the stone masonry walls are not straight, they are having undulation, the
Yeah,
depth,
Indonesian is thinking,
undulation
yo,
to match with the rock on the side. Huh?
goodness.
So amazing, Adranta. I would tell all our students whenever they get a chance or this thing, they should visit this place. And these are inspiring pieces of architecture. I mean, Adranta, I can't tell you, this is like
Your ex
blockbuster. I
blockbusters.
yeah. I am so I am filled with gratitude that I had this opportunity of seeing this. I was there for 2 hours. I was just sitting there enjoying. My
Oh,
wife, who's
goodness.
not an architect, was saying, "Okay, okay, let's go." I said, "No, let me feel this space." I was talking to, I mean, Navpreet called me. Okay, Navpreet, don't call me. I am watching something more important here. So,
Don't
so, so
disturb me. I have a moment
yeah,
here.
don't.
I have a
I'm making some
moment.
videos for you. I told her I'm making some videos. But you don't worry, I'm sharing it.
Wonderful.
I'm going to share. This is something unbelievable, Adranta.
You see the way you explain, I mean, I can feel you. You also make me
Yes,
goosebump
yes.
because I can imagine that. You can feel that. I mean, relate to your topic today, the context, the regional context
Context
in
of region.
architecture.
Yes,
That's the
yes.
best.
Absolutely.
That's the best
Absolutely.
example that you experience it and you have shared with us
Hmm.
today. Goodness. Well, Architect Gahendra, I think the time's jealousing me, jealousing you, jealousing everybody here. So, is there any final words? You as a chairman of Acacia, a committee of education, and I learned a lot from you when you're doing your chairmanship for 3 years. My goodness, for 3 years, I've been your co-chair. I become a deputy for your committee. I've learned a lot from you. So it seems like a passing baton to me, starting from next year. So before it's an honor. It's a beautiful moment. We create a nostalgia in this platform. We want to hear from your any final words, any advice, any quotes that you want to relate to all the viewers today, Kendra.
See, I could only tell Adranta one thing. We are in this field of architecture by chance or by any God's grace or any accident or any inspiration or whatever. This is the interesting field. And through the architecture, we can do something for the society. We touch the life of people. We design spaces. And these spaces are being utilized, are inhabited by human beings. And we touch lives. We improve the quality of lives of all inhabitants. We have to be serious. We have to be very, uh, 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 I would say, honest with our profession. And if you are into architecture, you have to enjoy architecture. You have to enjoy the space. Whatever you design, whatever ultimately our role is to design a space. Anything you design, it has to be a festive space. It has to be a celebrated space. Every single thing, small space you design or large buildings you design, it has to be celebrated. The person utilizing should be you should be happy. He should be happy to utilize your building. So think that way, be honest, And students, to all of you, be honest to the profession. And you have to, as doctors, they are also important because they touch upon our lives. They are taking care of our life. Also, doctor takes care of life for 1 hour, 2 hour, or 3 days, 10 days. We take care of the life. We touch the life lifelong. Architects touch the life lifelong. So our role is more important than anybody else. So be honest, enjoy your journey, enjoy architecture.
Wonderful, Architect Gayendra. It's such an honor to have you. I'm so happy to have you today. Thank you so much for your time. I know you are very,
Thank you,
very
Adrana. It's
busy.
always a pleasure.
Oh, it's a very, I can tell you, it's around the world watching us now, you know. So it's an opportunity to have you today. You know, I know you just came back from US and then straight away come to the site. And I heard this now, you're on site now. You are the site cabin. And then you can spend time with us. You know, please send my regards to your wife, to your family, and especially to all my good friends in Jaipur.
Thank you.
Kendra,
Thank
thank
you.
you so much to your contribution. You talk is so inspiring, and I really hope all the students and the viewers today been inspired and we learn something from you. And again, architecture should speak for its time and place, but yearn for timelessness. So architecture is not about space only, but it's about time that you mentioned just now, Kendra. Thank you so much, and
Thank
it's
you.
an
Thank you,
unforgettable
Adrana.
moment here. I hope to
Thank
see you in
you.
a physical way. Who
Yes,
knows that
very
I will
soon.
come back to Jaipur, and who knows that I can bring you to Kuala Lumpur with your family
Yes,
then.
yes. Definitely. Definitely.
All right, thank you so much. I think I
Thank
pass
you.
back to our MC today, Vinci. So this is the end of our session with Architect Gandra. Thank you so much, Architect Gandra, for your time and your contributions and to your thoughts. Very inspiring, very informative. And I pass back to Vinci. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, Architect Adrianta and Architect Ganendra, for giving us this interesting and eye-opening sharing, as well as giving us a very useful advice, especially for the students and also young architects. All right, this marks the end of our talk today. Thank you so much. Thank you all of the audience for making our day today with your attendance. And a very big thank you to our special guest, Architect Ganendra, and Architect Adrianta, our moderator, with the rest of the team for bringing this session to fruition.
Thank you.
Finally, but yeah, you're welcome. Lastly, but definitely not the least, it's been a great opportunity to have this collaboration with PAM and Architects in Architects Online Series 2021. So do keep in touch and follow us on MASA Instagram and Facebook page for more updates, and do check out Architects Online for more interesting webinar series. Also, if you haven't already done yet, you can also register yourself in PAM membership at www.mypam.org.my. There are a lot of benefits for architecture students that awaits. Until then, stay safe, stay healthy, and we will catch you next time. Have a good day and goodbye.
Thank you,
Bye.
Kendra.
Thank
On
you.
Thank
behalf
you,
of Akai
everyone.
members, we say thank you to you. All right.
Thank you. Thank you.
Be
Bye.
safe, everyone. Bye.
Bye.